All right. So our topic for today that you would want to talk about is relationships. Doesn't necessarily mean dating. It could be friendships. What is something that boggles your mind about my generation?
What boggles my mind is your generation is very flighty.
The hell does that mean?
What does it mean? It means that you don't commit. You basically uh, don't have constant jobs that you can go to support a commitment, and you're always looking for the broad with the big ass rather than the broad with the big heart.
See, these are stereotypes. This full blown stereotype. First of all, okay, hold on. Back up. First up, we don't have steady jobs because there's not we don't have the ability to have jobs. We can't get jobs. First of all, can't get the jobs. Second of all, we don't always want the one with the big ass. Sometimes we want a nice rack. No, no.
Well, I can understand you may want a nice uh, rack because if the girl has a big enough ass, she's unbalanced. She doesn't walk properly.
She's not buoyant in the water.
That's
No.
correct. That's correct.
No. So I understand what you mean in terms of flighty because we have dating apps and we've got social media and sort of everyone feels more like they're allowed to jump from place to place to place to place to place because they have more of the sort of grass is greener aspect. So I understand what you mean by flighty in that sense. But I would argue that if anything, we are finding deeper and truer senses of love than your generation.
How so?
Because your generation was sort of you got certain problems that you guys were acceptable about are not really that acceptable. Not you specifically, but people of your generation, men specifically, tend to abuse their wives in certain ways that are no longer acceptable, and they shouldn't have been acceptable back then. But because of the patriarchy, there was very little to do about it.
I take difference on this because, first of all, I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be 77 in 2 days, and you're 23.
Yes.
And in my generation, the women used to feel that they were old maids if they didn't get married by the time they were 25.
Right, but that's because
So-
society told them that
Yes.
because at the time the propaganda was that these females are here to breed and clean the house.
That is true.
And that's wrong.
And they didn't hold professional jobs.
Right.
Um,
They weren't it's not that they didn't, it's that they weren't allowed.
Well, I don't know if it's not that they weren't allowed, but most women
Tell
of
me
my
tell-
generation didn't go to college.
Right, because it wasn't who no one was gonna hire them. Or if they did, they weren't gonna end up as a CEO. They weren't gonna do stuff like that.
Yeah, women up until a certain point were, like you said, housewives, and unfortunately, because I'm someone who believes in equal rights for women, and I personally believe right now that most women might be smarter than men, but that's another story.
I can agree on that, but yes,
Yeah,
another
but
story.
in my generation, when I was your age, women were second-class citizens, and that is terrible. But when we met somebody, and hey, believe me, I partied hardy. There was Studio 54. There was a lot of great parties. I tended to go to parties in someone's basement where there were couples and
Yeah, I know.
but there was more commitment in my days. When we found somebody and we might have been too premature, we got married and hopefully not divorced too quickly. Whereas in your day, there's a little difficulty finding jobs, and you guys invest your money more going to clubs and bars and being on social media, And
Some of it's buying into the capitalistic society that we sell, and some of it is trying to break free of the nuclear family propaganda that we have pushed for so many decades, because more and more people are realizing that they don't want a spouse, 2 kids, and a dog, and a small white picket fence. They want a relationship with someone that may or may not develop into a marriage, and they probably don't want kids, or if they want quote unquote kids, they'll get like a dog and use that as their child, because they want to travel, they want to spend their money doing other stuff, because not only is the money that we're making have less buying power than you, but it's more scarce because, again, not as easy to get a job. So
yeah, I agree.
for that reason, marriage is dangerous. It's a financial risk to us. So
I agree. It's very easy to get into that honeypot for free. You know, I totally agree. That's where the big ass comes in. You know, you go to a club, somebody shakes their behind, and the first thing you say, "Wow, what a beautiful ass!" And
God,
you know, to me, we didn't have that kind of talk. We may have said nice rack, like you had alluded to before. But now with all these dances on social media and TikTok, and you have these 15, 16-year-old girls on TikTok, and you see older guys going to watch them, and then
I know. You see grown-ass men commenting on 15-year-old girls' posts.
Yeah, so it's a little sick, but I think dating in my day, you know, you saw somebody, you met somebody, you went out, you took them out to dinner.
I think dating back in your time was way more serious.
Yeah.
Yours, it's just it. I think I don't know how to describe this. I think it's similar to. No, that's a wrong analogy. I was gonna say just the fact that we now have a more widespread ability to date. We can date people. I can date someone from California. I can date someone from Europe if I want to, and we can send each other letters. And the concept of what dating is has sort of spread and thinned out. So it's no longer taken as seriously compared to your generation. You know, when you were dating someone, you were dating someone. Nowadays, people can date someone, break up, get back together, break up, go find someone else. You know, it's very, you know, arguably we've become more dull to the effects of dating and the seriousness behind it, but some people don't see it as that serious. You know, and I think we as a society have developed deeper levels of dating, because you can date someone and you tell someone, oh yeah, we've been dating for 6 months. That's not that long. But if you've been dating someone for 3 years, yeah, that's a long time. And you've got different levels of communication and trust and values within that person that you didn't have in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I think though dating has gotten more open and complex and easy for people to sort of interchangeably swap, I think you guys sort of had almost a black and white concept of dating. It was like you're either dating or you're not, and if you're not, then you're not doing these set of things with them. Versus nowadays, it's like the things you do with someone when you're dating 6 months versus 3 years is completely different, and it's completely warranted that it takes 3 years to get here. So,
you see, well, we didn't have dating services where, you know, it's the women are brought to you, and nowadays.
Well, or men, but.
Or men, you know, in our day, if you chose, you had to search for somebody if you wanted to find someone, or they would search for you, but not necessarily approach you, because it wasn't part of the criteria that women would approach men. It was more than men would approach women.
Yeah, well, and that's, you know, 2 things. One, I really hope that person sawing the tree right now does not get caught on this audio. I just realized what's going on. And number 2, yeah, I think that's a good thing though. Is that men are no longer having to always go up to women. because realistically, it's missed opportunities for the women. If they want to go up to a man, go up to him. My girlfriend went up to me, and we're happily together for 2 years.
Yeah.
I would have not have otherwise seen her because I was just at the food court trying to freaking get some food, and she came up out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, like your shoes." Okay, great, and it developed into a relationship. But like that day I had no intention of. I was at a food court, not a club, so I wasn't looking for anyone. I wasn't on the prowl as whatever. Just trying to get food, and the fact that she came up to me was a wonderful opportunity, and I'm now happily with her for 2 years now.
Yeah,
So,
well, you see, a different story in my generation. My generation, I met my first wife, and we were married for a couple of years. I had a son, and then I was a swinging bachelor, and for 7 years till I was really tired of it, and then I was fortunate I married your grandmother.
Yeah.
And your grandmother and I were in love. We were friends for over 40 years, and that was a blessing. I mean, she was the best part of my life, but at no point was I ever on social media. And
Well, it was way before your time, though.
yeah, yeah.
Like MySpace didn't come out till, you. So I understand, and I think it's the gap between it for you, seeing from where you were in the physical to where we are now. It's fast. It's a lot faster. The processing and the way the processing of how relationships move, as well as the process itself of the relationship. Something that may have, for example, you finding someone, marrying them, and then divorcing them, we go through that in 6 months through dating. We no longer marry them.
That's why I said the commitment is more difficult for you now.
Well, but arguably the commitment is more difficult because what took you years to experience and realize, we are able to grasp within months, arguably. A lot of times that's false, because a lot of times it's just people who are looking for a relationship and they project their own traumas onto them and then expect them to fix it, and then they don't, so they leave.
With the same premise was everybody wanted to get laid before they got married, so it's
that's the thing.
Same crap,
Right. And nowadays, people are more willing and open to doing it versus back then it was, more shameful to be, getting around for at least the women. For the men, it was.
Yeah, but
it was
here's the difference. You have in my time, we had clubs. I enjoyed the clubs in between marriages. There was probably in my time a lot more drinking than in your time at the clubs, because
there's way more drinking on my generation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. We are drinking way more.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
Yes.
But in my day, I know before my first marriage, I met my wife at a party in the basement of someone's house because that's the way it was done.
Well, people still do that now, though.
Yeah.
That happens plenty of times at college.
We had no computers and we weren't on there.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I think that happens. That still happens all the time at college. I can't tell you how many of my friends would go to a party and they found their girlfriend there. Do they end up finding a wife there? Can't tell you. I'm only 23.
Yeah.
They're not marrying yet. But I've met plenty of people who met or had or currently have relationships from basement parties or nights out with a group of friends in New York or whatever.
Yeah.
So it still happens. It's not uncommon, but a significant portion of the world is now able to find, shall we argue, a true sense or a deeper sense of love with people that they would not have otherwise been able to have met in person.
Yeah, and I think a better aspect of what you guys do is the fact that I had said you don't commit for various reasons, but you get married a little later in life if you choose to get married and you're a little bit more mature. and
Well,
you know,
maturity is.
hopefully,
Yeah, here's hoping.
you know.
But I would say the reason though we don't marry later because we want to be mature. We marry later because we don't have the money or time to enjoy our lives the way you did. You know, your generation was able. Obviously, your generation didn't have the wants and needs that we have. Like most of my generation wants to travel to Maldives and Europe and do all these things that, you know, your generation may have wanted to travel, but not at the extent or the capacity at which we want to.
Yeah, well, here's the reason why. Okay.
The reason why is because we are able to now travel across our towns and go across states at a speed with which you were not able to, and we no longer have to do the entire state because we have social media. So we can say, "Oh, I don't want to go there. It only got 2 stars." And great, I want to go here.
Now, here's the reason why. I'll give you the true reason why.
Okay.
Some of us had money, okay?
Yeah.
Some of us could travel.
Right.
Maybe not as much as you guys could if you say you could. But the fact is, you married a girl, she wanted to knock off a couple of children. By the time she was 25, I mean...
Yeah, but by the time you were 25, you had a good enough job that could settle you in home. By the time I'm 25, I may be able to afford a stick of gum.
Yeah, well, I also worked 2-3 jobs.
But again, we went through this multiple times.
I know.
The buying power with which you were making, the money you were making at your...
Depends what you want to buy. I know what you're going to say. Okay, the buying power was more in my generation.
Because it's not only...
If you had the money.
Yeah, I know if you had the money, but at the same time, here's the thing though. It's one thing to say, oh, you know, $5 back then was $150 today or whatever. But on top of that, back then, let's say $1 could get you milk. Even if we price adjusted that to today, it doesn't equate. That dollar, even if it appreciated to today's standards, does not get you the same milk. The milk is now more expensive.
Yes.
So the money that even if we somehow, even if we calculated, all right, the amount of money you made back then, and we translated it to 2021, and we gave someone that income, they would not be able to buy the same stuff you were able to buy. Even close. We wouldn't even get close to it because of how far inflation has separated from the rise in currency.
Yes, but I still think that where there's a will, there's a way. I think that you.
Of course. I mean, yeah. If your heart is set on getting to Europe at least once in your life, you can get there. You save your dimes and eat ramen, and you can get there. But
that's correct.
You know, people don't have usually one freaking dream because they've got other things they want to do. They want to live a healthy life. They want to go to Europe. They want to have possibly a nice family or a decent sized family, and they don't want to live in the slums. That's really hard to even do just that, let alone anything else, because affording a healthy meal and a decent home is near impossible.
You see, in your generation, when 2 people get married now, there's more money than in my generation. The reason for that is, think about this. In my generation, I worked. My wife did not. Most of the women in my generation were homemakers.
Right.
They stayed home and they took care of the children. I mean, there's exceptions, you know.
Of course.
In your generation, because you want more things and things perhaps cost more, like you say.
Well, but that's the
2
argument.
people had to work.
But that's the argument, though. A lot of us don't even want more. We just want the same.
So you got to work.
But that's my point, though, is to get what you had, you worked by yourself. You didn't need your wife to work. To get the exact same thing, if translated to today, would require twice as much, if not more, work, time, and money to get there. Because things were cheaper back then.
Well, instead of my wife working, which in my second marriage she did, okay, not in my first, I had to work 2-3 jobs.
I know, and my argument still stands.
Yeah.
The money that you were making from 2 to 3 jobs, you still, even with those 2-3 jobs, did you still have time to do things for yourself? Whether it was go out, you know,
Yeah.
shopping or meet people or hang out with people and do things, right?
Well, I went with my wife and we entertained.
But you were able to still have a life outside of your work.
Yeah, because
Right.
we entertained in the house.
Right.
We went out to restaurants
Exactly.
if we could.
Exactly. 2 to 3 jobs today for any person. You physically cannot have a life. If you let's say I worked Monday through Friday, I had a morning shift somewhere, let's say normal 9 to 5. No, not even. Yeah, screw it. Let's say a 9 to 5. Let's say I'm going for a 9 to 5 and I get a lunch, I get like 2 hours or 3 hours, and then I go to a night shift for 4 hours that night for whatever, a janitor or a gym or something. And then on the weekends, I work another whatever. Saturday, Sunday, let's say I work another 6 to 8 hours. There's no time for anything. You're literally working and sleeping. And you've got 8 hours on that Saturday and Sunday to do what you need. And that means food shopping. That means cleaning your house, cleaning your room, caretaking for whatever it is. If you've got to go to a doctor, you've got doctor's appointments, you've got anything, any sort of obligation. You want to meet family. You want to just go out to eat. All of that has to happen on 2 days, assuming those 3 jobs cumulatively pay for the rent with which you were able to live in a building for.
Yeah,
And
it also depends on your education and.
Well, of course, yeah, the higher education, you can obviously go for better jobs, but
Yeah.
at the same time, my argument still stands is that you were able to have 3 jobs, 2 to 3 jobs, and still have time at various points to go out, to shop, to entertain, and do things. And my generation can barely hold 2 and live a life that is mentally healthy or physically healthy.
Yeah,
Because we can't afford to feed ourselves, even on 2 jobs. Some of us, obviously, there's people who are doing very well with 1 job, but
I think you're alluding to people who are working for minimum wage, and there at that point I agree with you,
but at the same time, that's still minimum wage is supposed to be the minimum livable wage, yet it's not livable.
that's how you want to live.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I could live in a shoebox and save all my money and just buy food, but
we started off talking about dating.
Right.
And dating means, and I had said, no commitment by your generation. Your generation would rather take whatever little money they have, and they will, your generation, if they get off of the social media and they're finished with school and they're finished with work, they will, you see where I disagree with you, they will find time to go to a club, sit around, have some beer, watch the booty shake, not have to go home with anybody unless they're looking to, have sex, say good night, goodbye, and I got to go to work tomorrow. Where in my generation, we worked a little harder, so we had a little bit more.
See, I agree and disagree. I think there's plenty of people that do that. They work paycheck to paycheck.
Not you.
No, I understand. When you say you, you're meaning the people. I understand.
Right.
So, but yeah, I plenty of kids I know. I knew plenty of kids at college. They're going to school and they're working, and most of their money that could have gone to paying off their loans went towards alcohol and weed and vapes and parties and frat houses and whatever.
And tattoos.
Tattoos or whatever. But tattoos are one thing, though, because you get to keep that forever. That's not like alcohol where you drink it and it's over.
Well, if you don't have enough money to buy a better life, why spend it on tattoos?
Right. That's obviously. But, I think, personally, tattoos are a better investment than something like a party or a club. Because
you get that forever.
You're investing in a lifelong piece of artwork on your body. And if you love that artwork and and it's actual artwork, you're not getting some freaking, You're not getting Jared Leto's face on your
I
arm,
don't know.
and you're getting something worth it, whether it's a kid or like your kid, not a kid, or you're getting an actual piece of artwork from someone that you really like. Sure, that's an investment, in my opinion.
Okay.
You take care of it, great, and it'll look good later on. And if it starts to get raggedy, you can either get it fixed up or you can get a cover up. But lost my freaking point. I still think when it comes to the paycheck, we are still, the amount of time that you guys had is still significantly more than what we had. Some people, yes, they're paying and they want to go to the club because that's how they want to live and die. They want to go to the parties and they want to be where the quote-unquote action is. Some people go to these parties and clubs to nullify whatever pain that they feel they can't get through themselves.
Right.
But I would still argue that still, you guys still had more time. Your argument that you worked harder and saved more is in my mind crap, because like I said before, buying power. You could buy it makes a significant difference, because if back then it was $1 to buy milk and we adjust it today to $4 for whatever, half gallon, okay? If that was the translation, $1 back then for milk equals $4 today. That's not how it works. It's $5, $6 for milk. And yeah, you're like, oh, well, what's $2? But translate that to everything. Literally everything. Every form of service, every form of food, everything is more, not just the milk. So that's hundreds and possibly thousands of dollars per year that you are losing as someone who is working and buying and paying in 2021 compared to your time. That's an extra few $1,000s a year that I could use towards rent. I could use towards a suit that I can use to get a better job, or I can use so that I don't have to take 3 jobs. I could take 2. That's money that's no longer in my pocket purely because the economic system is failing.
We don't even want to get into socialism against capitalism.
I'm not going into socialism versus capitalism.
Okay.
I'm simply saying the fact that things are costing more, but our money is not following that, shows that something's wrong. Something is not working as it should. And therefore, it is a problem. It is failing in some sense. Some mechanism within the clockwork of this whole thing is not rotating properly.
You're talking about inflation, okay?
But it's more than inflation, because the adjustment of the money itself is not following the inflation, and therefore, like I said, buying power is not it's weaker. Our dollar is weaker. The same way you compare dollars to euros and Canadian bills and whatever. Our dollar is weaker now than it was in your time, and for that reason, it significantly impacts our entire lives. Our apartments we choose, the food we eat, the time that we have to spend with the people we love and the people we want to love. We don't have that time and ability always. Always. Some people do. Some people, depending on where you live. You know, if you live in Texas where you can get a mansion house for $6, great. But you know, and in the same stance, you go to New York and a $500,000 home is no bigger than a Nissan sedan. So,
okay,
you know, I understand depending on where you live
That's
can
correct.
affect that. But you were in New York.
Okay.
You were in New York.
Right, that is correct.
The crap that you could buy.
Okay, but again, we all decide in our life how we want to live it, and we can make it easier for ourselves by where we live. We can make it easier for ourselves by doing less.
That's true, but when you are literally born set behind, and mind you, we're talking as this from 2 white men, two straight white men. We are the most privileged there is. So I'm saying that as a purposeful point. But so regardless of just the fact as being a straight white man, I have tons of privileges that so many other people do not have, whether it is women, LGBTQ, various forms of minorities. Any other person other than me has so many less privileges. privileges.
But how's this getting into dating?
But I was actually going to circle it back. You're saying, oh, depending on how you live, depending on where you live, doesn't matter. We are born behind the curve. We are literally born into a time where the money is weaker and the things are pricier, and therefore, yeah, you can have it's totally fine to have a mindset of work harder. That's fine. That's totally fine. But that's not to distinguish the fact that this is a problem. This is a foreseeable problem that has persisted from your generation through my parents to mine. And it's continuing, and there is no current sign of it changing. So what's going to happen when my kids go to have a job? When my kids or my grandkids, what the hell is it going to look like? So to bring that back, we as a generation do not have the time to invest into someone to spend a life with them. We all want to be selfish because we don't have the money to even pay properly for ourselves, let alone a relationship.
But your generation,
to then settle down into a marriage at 25,
well,
is improbable.
I said that you're probably better off because your generation doesn't get married till they're about older, in
but we
their
don't
30s.
we don't get married till we're older because we cannot afford it, because we cannot get there. Obviously,
There are people in your generation who get there.
no, there's plenty. That's what I mean. Yes, again, we are talking in a vacuum because there's people on every end of the spectrum. There's people who make $5 a day and they're trying their freaking hardest, and they're probably not gonna get there unless they work smarter. And there's people who were born into wealth and they'll never see anything less than $1 million in their wallet, and they'll never have trouble in the world.
Yeah, that's the exception.
But, I'm just saying, there's a full spectrum here. So yes, I understand that there are people that, they work hard, they get there, and they find someone, and they get married, and they've got double income now, and it works great. But the general public struggles. The
Okay.
general public.
You have a girlfriend.
Yes.
You like her.
Yes.
You just graduated from college.
Yes.
Okay. Now you're looking for a job.
Yes.
You're looking for a good paying job.
Moderately paying. I recognize it's going to be an entry-level job, so I know the pay's going to be crap.
Okay, well, let's say you get an entry-level job and you're making good money, and you're still with your same girlfriend.
Okay.
Okay, and you love her.
Yes.
She's going to want to get married.
Okay.
You will say to yourself, well, I don't know if I want to get married, but you might want to get married because she may say to you, give you an ultimatum.
Well, that would be within my relationship. I don't know about other people's. We've developed a strong level of communication. So if she was nearing that time where she wants to get married, which wouldn't be anytime soon because her and I have already discussed conversations
I'm
like
talking
that.
about down the line.
So let's say down the line we're 29, okay, and she's getting in. We would talk about it, saying, okay, where are we at? Where are we at as a relationship? I have my job. Are you, she's on track to do dental. So is she still in school? Is she already out? Is she practicing? What is it? And therefore, some other serious questions would have to come up if they hadn't already in the time frame of the relationship. But
here's the reality of dating. Reality of dating is whether you have a lot of money or you don't have a lot of money. If you're friends, you could go out and get ice cream instead of a very expensive meal. Go back to the house, do what you want to do, and enjoy one another. But at a certain point in dating, regardless, there's what's called a commitment to the heart. And the male who falls in love with a woman, and he's a little scared perhaps because he'd like to earn more, doesn't want to lose that woman because she's a big part of his life. And then there's the flip side where the woman says to him, you know what, you better decide what you want to do because I'm not waiting 6 years for you, I'll wait 3. I'll give you a chance to generate an income. You can't generate the income, I'm going to work. and we'll both generate an income, and we'll make a do until we can have a better way of life. There's no formula for happiness. There's a formula where if you don't want to commit, the relationship will end, and that's heartbreak.
Right. I would also add this can be twisted in different ways as well. Like, you know, it can be the woman looking to marry the man and he's like, I only want to wait at a certain time and she's not ready. It may be the other way around, or it may be neither. You know, there's other relationships we're talking about. But I would also say though, you know, again, your generation had not a secure lifestyle, but you had a path to security. So obviously there's no such thing as a secure lifestyle because life is volatile and no matter what job you have, it can go sideways and you can lose all your money, whatever. But you guys at least had a path to security. Your jobs were upward moving and you could work your way through and really get there.
Why not now?
Because it doesn't work like that as easily. It's not as easy anymore to work your way up and find a secure position and do all these things and maintain a happy lifestyle. Granted, the argument of what makes you happy, I think, needs to be reevaluated because I think a lot of people buy into things and materials and things that they think will make them happy when they don't. So that's a separate conversation. But I think you guys had a more promised future of security. Whether you wanted it or not, you had a more promised future and you could get there. This generation does not have a promised future of security. There is a future of security that is probable and is possible, but it's gotten smaller and it's gotten more difficult. You know, like we said the other day, doctors, lawyers, scientists, things like that are very, if you choose the top of the top, they're very secure. You know, yeah, you'll be paying off medical loans for the freaking rest of your life, but
Correct.
You will be quite secure if your husband or wife is a relatively high up there doctor or high up there lawyer or high up there scientist that's not just some high school science teacher. But you know, my point is you were able to work at smaller places or do certain things and work your way through it. Nowadays it's a lot harder and there's a lot less, there's more competition. There's more competition and less opportunity.
There's always been competition.
Yes, but the competition is completely different. You were able to be in New York and realistically only go up against people in New York for your job. Now, when I apply to SiriusXM or Discovery Plus, I'm going up against the millions of people across the U.S. and if not just the U.S., across the country, across the world, assuming they speak English and can apply for it. If it's a remote job, now we've got these remote jobs. I am quite literally applying for a job against thousands of people, and I can no longer just go to the building, shake someone's hand, and say, "Hi, here's my resume." I tried that during the pandemic. I tried to go to the NBC building and hand them my resume physically so that they can see my face and see that I am willing to put in this effort for this position. I got to the front door and the guy turned me away and said, "We don't do that anymore. We don't accept resumes in person. You can submit online." How am I supposed to make an impression if I am literally doing everything I can to go the extra mile? Besides lying on my resume, I cannot get any further into the door unless I know someone and I have those connections, which I wouldn't unless my family members did. So there's that level of privilege that comes into play. But at the end of the day, it is harder and it's more scarce. And for that reason, people are being more selfish because they're not able to spend their 20s enjoying their life because they have to spend their 20s grinding and making the money so that in their 30s, they can enjoy their life, or in their 40s. So they have to spend their 20s building, and you give up those years. And because of that, people don't want to have kids anymore. People don't want to have families
I can
anymore.
understand. Everybody...
But for that reason, that's why people aren't getting in relationships, because they're spending years of their life in school, and then they graduate from school, and they then have to go immediately into work and build as much income or investments or whatever it is as they can so that they can have some level, if not any level, of financial freedom to enjoy their 30s.
Well, I also had to go for a master's degree, and I had to work at night, and I had to, go at night for my master's degree, and I had to work in the afternoon, and there was a war going on, and I had to take a job I didn't want to take for less pay than I was earning before the war started.
Right, but
I
I'll still return though to the fact that your buying power was more though. Regardless of you getting
see,
less pay, you were still making more money.
But I'll get back to the point where I was the only one working, where today, if you want to commit, and there are two people, yes, you're earning less, but you now have double income, where in my day it was single income because women were staying home more and taking care of the kids. But the best part is now that most of you don't want to have children, or I don't want to say that, that's incorrect, but you can choose not to have children.
People are now more and more having the freedom to choose. It's no longer looked down upon or shunned to not
That's
have
correct.
kids because the, shall I say again, the propaganda to have a nuclear family is no longer required of people.
Yeah, then you fall people like myself who are my age and widow. Now you take a look at dating, and you got a very good selective choice. You have somebody on a walker, somebody who's walking around with a hearing aid, can't hear you, somebody who all they want to do is talk about their grandchildren or their children.
Yeah.
So in retrospect, I think it's great that you enjoy your life with your mate while you're younger, because when you get older and God forbid something does happen, it's not so much. It's not as enjoyable as young love is.
Right. Well, because you've already, you're not necessarily looking to start over with someone else. You've lived a good portion of your life already with someone, and you're not necessarily looking to include someone else. Some people are. Some people, it happens, and they don't necessarily want another husband or a wife or whoever. They just want a companion. So, and that's okay. That's totally fine. Some people just need a friend and someone to just be there, platonic. There's no sexual things. They don't need. They just want the company because it's the fear of being alone and ending your life alone. And that's fine. That's understandable. Some people do it. Some people don't.
You see, the natural thing is you're getting out of college. You don't have a job. You're scared.
Of
Not
course.
You. Not
No,
you.
no, I know. You meaning the people. You
Yeah.
meaning the
Yeah,
generation.
you're
Yes.
scared. You're scared.
Well, you're scared if you are not a straight white man with connections.
No. Yeah. Well, you want. When is it going to happen to me? And hopefully it does. And you know what? When you get the job, if you can work yourself up to a reasonable income, you might be somebody in finance. You might be. You don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer. Well, today there's too many lawyers. Doctors.
Whatever.
Yeah.
There's job
But-
markets flood here and
Yeah,
there.
but-
It's changing.
Your attitude then changes because you have money, and if you're not a snob, you'll say, okay, I met the girl of my dreams. I'm going to live with her as a husband and wife, and we're going to travel. And you may not want to have kids, like you say, because kids do take up a lot of time. And so you'll be surprised how your life can change when you least expect it.
Here's something that I think you will agree on, and that I think I see from a perspective that I think more parallels yours than my generation. I think with social media, with internet and all this stuff, I think a lot of people are wanting so much that they don't necessarily value what they have. And what I mean by that is, they want the girl of their dreams or the guy of their dreams. They want a beautiful big house. They want to travel. they want to be financially free, and they want to eat healthy. And they want to do all this before 30. And it's, you know, the what they value, I think, is important. Because you said something, while you were saying something, it hit me in a way. You know, you find someone you love, and like we were saying before, you're probably not going to be ready financially to have the family or the whatever you want, but you're going to do it because you love them. And that's the next step you want to take, and you'll figure it out because you love them and you're willing to go into that sort of darkness to figure it out blindly because you love them and you want to continue.
Or you're afraid to lose them.
Right. And if the other option is to lose them and you're not willing to, you step into that darkness to figure it out. But I think with the internet and social media, we have sort of this perspective, this false perspective that we can, not that we can achieve, but that we deserve to have so many things. You know, we have, by all means, you can achieve whatever you want. If you want to be the next Elon Musk, where you can buy and sell rockets and flamethrowers and crappy trucks that break with a rock, and you know, you want to have those millions and billions, go for it. There's ways to do it. I can't tell you how to do it, but there's ways to get there. You're just not going to get there necessarily by 20. Some people might. You may be the next Einstein, but the general public is not Einstein, and therefore you have to have perspective. If you want to eat healthy, you want to travel, you want to have a beautiful home, you have to recognize you're not going to get that by 30. And I think our generation doesn't always recognize that.
That's correct.
That we have so much time
Right.
in our life. Like, getting that house that you want by 40 is okay. Getting it by 40 is okay because you spent your 20s to 30s figuring out a healthy diet and finding what works best for you so that you can spend from 30 to 100 eating beautifully and being in the most best shape you can be for the rest of your life. And then you spent your 30s to 40s building income as well as traveling. And you were sort of doing both. And then you hit 40 and you finally found the home of your dreams, whether you built it, you bought it, rented it to own, whatever.
Correct.
But I think my generation, because we see people like the TikTok stars, Charli D'Amelio and whoever else, or YouTube stars, the ability to get that income so quickly, with which your generation needed 40 years to build it, we can get it in 6 if done a special way. And I think because of that, our concept of time has sort of shortened in that we feel we deserve that nice home by 28.
Well, you then have, because of social media.
Whether it's social media or just the internet as a whole or advertising. I wouldn't even go as far as just social media. I would go as far as advertising in Coca-Cola and McDonald's and all this crap. You know, they've got...
You deserve a break today.
But they've got advertisements where you've got youthful looking people in these beautiful homes or whatever it is, you know. The advertisements are subliminal and they tower over us as well, whether you are aware of them or not. They're around you at all times in the magazines, TV, whatever. But anyways.
But these people who are 15 and 16, like I said before, who are dancing on the TikTok, figured out something. And they don't have to worry about the prices of goods and services. People who can figure out different things can do whatever they want in life. In your day now, people say, would you like to get together? We'll have coffee. Okay? In my day, it was, can I take you out to dinner?
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, because we can't afford dinner anymore.
Yeah, because if you said to a girl, you want to meet for coffee, she'd say no, because she think you're a real cheapskate. Okay?
Right. But nowadays, you meet for coffee, and that's, we're going to Starbucks, we're going to Panera. Like, because you're going to Panera, you've got her. Or you're going to Starbucks, you've got her. You're going to Dunkin', crap. You're a poor bastard.
So, we can talk endlessly and endlessly, but you know what it is? You could always, whether you're rich or poor, you could always adjust your lifestyle to live. You just may not live happily, and that's a problem.
Well, I mean, but at the same time, like I said at the beginning, is readjusting what you define as happy. You know, some people don't feel happy unless they've got 3 Apple laptops and a Tesla. But is that really making you happy? No, not necessarily. Obviously, you know, I am not one to say, oh, live simply and do all that crap, because I'm not against the people who say I'd rather cry in a Lambo, you know, that saying. I'm not necessarily against that. You know, I understand things can make you happy. I'm not against the whole money can't buy happiness, because I disagree. Money can buy happiness. It's bullshit to say that. It can, because it can buy you security, it can buy you good food, and it can buy you the things that bring about the happiness. It may not directly. I mean, obviously, if you love cake and you want to buy cake with the money, then there you go, directly buying happiness. But I think, you know, I just lost my freaking point. I talked about the cake. I started thinking about cake.
I'm the one who's supposed to lose my mind. I mean, I'm going to be 77. You know?
I started talking about cake, and I was like, in my head, I started thinking about what a cake looked like. The point I was trying to say was just that the whole concept of money can't buy happiness is bullcrap. Money can buy a form of happiness, so I'm not against that. But I agree with you in that, and this is something that I think everyone, I don't even think my generation struggles with, is change and adapting as we get older. Because as we get older, we get more set in our ways. We think we understand the world and we understand how it works, and therefore it gets harder for us to change. But at the same time, you know, if we're in our 20s and we're sort of, you know, if you're saving for that house or you working for that house, yeah, you may have to spend 5 to 10 years eating ramen and lower quality food. Not ramen necessarily, but like, yeah, you may not be able to go to Carmine's or Junior's in Times Square, but maybe, you know, you can go to Panera, you go to Olive Garden, you go to some like decent places. You're not going to McDonald's. And maybe once in a while you go to a nice dinner on holiday or something, or you go on a vacation. But yeah, maybe for like 10 years, you got to save. You got to work even less than that. You can't be buying clothes every weekend. You can't be going out every weekend. But
that's why
changing your perspective, finding out what do you really want in life. That's what I was trying to get at before, is what do you really want in life? Do you want that house? Do you want to travel? Do you want to marry someone? Do you want to spend your life with that person you love? What do you really want? And you're allowed multiple things. You don't need just one. But if you have more than one, you need to have the perspective and recognition that you can't get it all in one shot. You can. I'm not saying you can't. But if you want it all, recognize that it's okay to get married and spend your life with that person and be set on that at 30 and get there. And then get your house at 40, and then be completely financially free at 50, and then spend from 50 on traveling. Because that's fine. You can travel. You can still travel at 50. The hell's wrong with, like, you know, people think your life's over at that point. Got plenty of time.
Yeah, well, here's the thing in a nutshell. Everybody has plenty of time until
you don't have time.
Until you don't have time.
Right, of course.
And you don't have time for one or two reasons. One, you meet somebody and the time is limited because
you're now spending it with them and things that you would have done by yourself, or
that's correct.
You know,
and
it would have cost you this much to go to Guam. Now you got to pay twice as much to bring your girlfriend or wife or spouse.
You know, and you want to be together and you want to do things together.
Right. And maybe they don't want to go to Guam. Maybe she wants to go to France, and you don't want to go to France.
Maybe she just wants to go. You know, go watch a movie in the house.
Right.
You know, and stream a movie.
Right.
But the whole point is that happiness is relevant to the individual. Someone can make a lot of money and not be satisfied. I remember your grandmother's boss, who was a multimillionaire, not to mention names. He was in the elevator with my wife, your grandmother, who was absolutely gorgeous, and he was single, and he had tried to hit on her, but she laughed it off. But he then said to her, "How come your kids turn out so well? Your mother, my son, your mother was from my second marriage,
Yes.
and mine are not turning out well." And the whole point is, he devoted his whole time to his business, very little time to family. So everybody chooses what they want to do in life. If you want to, when you're younger, want to have you're tired of dating, you want to have a family, you're tired of staying in the house playing with your computer games, you're tired of doing everything that you do over and over again, and you want to live life in retrospect, whether you're making $15 an hour or you're very, very rich, you can make a bad decision and get married too early because you can't afford it, but you try. And I think today's society has made kids soft, and I know this is going to piss you off, compared to my society. I think we were tougher. We had more aspects. In my day,
You guys weren't tougher. You're just mentally damaged from wars.
that's yeah. I mean, you had
You guys weren't tougher. You guys
Yeah.
were just PTSD
yeah, we
and
had
lack of emotional help.
we had people coming back. Our fathers came back from World War II.
There was no such thing as a therapist back then.
Yeah.
You went there because you were deemed crazy in court.
Yeah,
So
our parents came, our fathers or mothers who did go to war came back from World War II. Then there was the Korean War. Then there were,
Cold War.
Cold War. And you know what? We may have been a little crazy. I don't think I was crazy.
I don't think you are, but I'm saying
Yeah.
your generation. You
Yeah.
caught us soft.
You know,
You guys went through wars. You guys were
And-
coming back from
and-
killing people.
you had a portion of our generation that went on drugs and
Right. Well, dude.
but we passed
60s to 80s.
Yeah, but we were great. We passed it down to you.
Ugh.
You learned what cocaine was. You learned.
Shrooms. That was 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Shrooms.
So
His 80s was coke.
yeah. So my attitude is, because we can talk and talk and talk forever, is I feel very sorry for a family where they're only making $15 an hour and there's one person working and they can't buy enough food and for their family and live where they want to. I really, really do. Because we hear everybody saying we're going to raise the wage to $15 when people are making 10.
I know, and
But-
that's a whole separate conversation.
that's a
because
separate
raising the
conversation.
minimum wage doesn't necessarily mean more money for people,
Right.
because that means other things have to get more expensive. So
Right.
separate.
But as far as people dating, I think there's a will, there's a way, and then the decision down the line, how far you want to take this dating, is up to the individual. There's no formula. If you wait till the right time to get married, if you choose to get married, it could be happy. 50% of people get divorced, so it doesn't mean anything. So we're talking in circles about it, but we're giving our opinion. And like I had said to you before, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an asshole. So
Kids just don't do drugs like they used to.
yeah, I mean, I never did drugs. But I did drink. So
Yeah,
I
well-
wasn't an alcoholic, but I did drink.
Well, but
So,
You know.
but I turned out.
turned out pretty good.
Yeah, and so did my kids, and so did my grandchildren. Are super, all 5 of them.
Thank you.
So the fact that you and I can talk, and we're
Well, the fact that you and I can talk like this and not get into a fist fight is it's a miracle on its own right, because Lord knows the freaking amount of people your age trying to have a conversation with me about anything. The level of patience on either side is quite thin.
Yeah.
So, but I would, I think I agree with you, and I think in my aspect, though I agree with you in the volatility of dating and relationships, and how social media has affected it and allowed sort of given people, similar to alcohol gives you liquid courage, social media has given people sort of digital courage to feel that they can, and they can do things more so than they actually can. You know, some people jump towards relationships because they think they can just find the person that they need to, when in reality you need to work at it. You know, like relationships take work, and I think my generation fails to recognize that until they actually get into one that requires it, that they want to devote the time to.
That's correct.
Your generation knew that, and so when you got into the relationship, you knew it was going to be work. You knew that it's not just going to be there. And my generation doesn't see that, because we see perfect relationships online, and we hear about it on podcasts, and they go, oh, it just clicked. But it doesn't. You have to work at it. There's things that need to be dealt with and conversed. There's going to be arguments.
You have to be friends before you're lovers.
Well,
that's what the song says.
I don't know what the hell song you talking about.
I forgot the name of it. You got to be friends before you are lovers. And if anybody is listening to this podcast, whoever, they can mention what the song is. But that is the truth. And again, if you sitting in the house, unless you're going to be a professional computer player, you are missing out on all those beautiful women with the big behinds out there.
Oh my God. Well, they're all online. They're 5 miles away from you. Little Cindy on the advertisement.
Yeah, but Cindy might be Carl.
Well, can't help you with that one.
You know, you can't tell.
Well, some people are okay with that.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a roulette. Some people are sorry, you know, whatever.
You're right, but you know, when you're with somebody,
when you're with someone that you really want to be with, you'll do anything for them.
That's correct.
And it doesn't matter what it is. You will. It doesn't matter what it is. You will find a way to make it work.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure.
So it has been a pleasure. We are still working on a name, actually. I think.
Talking about everything.
Talking about everything. Well, no, we got to research it. I don't know if that's gonna. So still working on a name, but yeah. So that's it. We'll come back another time and talk about something else.
Okay.
So,
Have
thanks.
a good one, kid.